Alrighty, everyone. Hello and happy Sunday. I hope you've had a great weekend so far. Boy, has it been a busy weekend. I know we've been busy in the weather department. I feel like we always say that, but it's been especially true here as of late. So I am wave meteorologist Jessica Dobson, and we're going to talk about a couple of different things that we're going to do things a little differently tonight just because a number of reasons. We obviously had the devastating tornadoes in the Nashville and Clarksville, Tennessee areas, a little too close for comfort, to be perfectly honest. And then also, and they're also our neighbors, to the south, but it is also the anniversary of the December 2021 tornado outbreak. And I cannot believe it's been 2 years. I think locals, just really anyone in and around the area, I think we all remember what we were doing and what was happening that morning. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we'll go over some things. But I do want to talk about our forecast first. But the forecast is honestly not going to be, it's not going to be majorly impactful. I'll be honest. We're not looking at anything crazy this week. It's actually going to be very quiet. Not that you don't need to listen to the forecast because it will be cold. There's still some things to discuss, but it's just not going to be anything like what we have been seeing. I feel like it's been pretty active here for a little bit, but. Okay, let's go ahead and take you outside. I love this shot of Paristown. This has been so fun to watch. You have such a variety of skaters out there. You have the pros. I saw there. I think he's still skating backwards. There's a guy out there skating backwards. He's just crushing it. But we also have those who are clinging to the sides, or the helpers. I don't know. I can't remember what they're called, but they're almost like walkers. But I would need that. I tried to go ice skating a couple years ago in Myrtle Beach. I took lessons as a kid, believe it or not, and I cannot do it like I used to. But oh, and also, of course, if you guys are watching, feel free to leave a comment where you're watching from. We have Chris already tuning in. Hello to you, Chris, from Facebook. But if you can leave a comment, as always, I like to talk to people. It's always a lot more fun for me when there are people to talk to on this. So we're going to go ahead and dive into things because we're dry right now. We have seen a couple flurries try to form further to our north. I still kept the chance in there just because you can kind of see a little bit of that, certainly some lake effect happening further to our north, but we could see a couple of flurries try to make their way down here, and mainly for areas to our east of I-65, but really especially for the Bluegrass region closer to I-75, also Lexington, much better chances of seeing a few flurries. But even still, nothing too crazy. We're not talking like accumulating snow or anything like that, so don't get your hopes up. But yeah, that's the system that caused us a lot of headaches yesterday. For so many people, it was a very powerful system, and it's kind of been on a radar, no pun intended, for a while now that we've been watching it. But today we did make it to a high of 47 degrees. Now, I need to go back and check the exact time that happened, but I do believe it was actually shortly after midnight last night because temperatures have just fallen ever since. So you have to kind of discount that number, but our low so far today has been 37, and that number will likely change here as well. So we're down to 38 right now, and if we make it below 37, that will change our low temperature for the day. 38 though right now in Louisville, we have 37 in Jeffersonville, 34 in Eminence, Shelbyville, 32 in Seymour. We haven't seen too many changes over the last hour or so temperature wise. Tonight, whoopsie, I zoomed in, did not mean to do that. Tonight's temperatures will be dipping down into the upper 20s. It will be cold. Yeah, especially after what we've had the last couple of days. I mean, we were in the 60s yesterday. We are now 20 to almost 30 degrees colder right now than where we were at this exact time yesterday. Although at this point yesterday, we did have some rain and temperatures were beginning to tumble, but it's just been such a difference of a day. But I do want to show you maybe just a couple of our future casts just to kind of give you an idea of, a few flurries for some of us, maybe if you're lucky. But some models try to clear us out a bit more, but I don't think we'll still have to deal with some clouds tonight. And then you'll see a good amount of sunshine, clearing skies tomorrow, Monday, or that tomorrow is Monday, Tuesday, and then clouds will stream back in by Wednesday. but even that's like the most active weather we have to talk about. I mean, I think we need a moment to catch our breaths after yesterday, of course, but we are going to be watching next weekend. And I've talked about this before. Sometimes when we have these patterns set up, a lot of times the overall setup is every 5 to 7 days that we see these kind of systems swing through. And that's been the case so far. I feel like over the last couple of weeks, we had a lot of that over the summer, and that was not fun. And then we had that yesterday, of course, but I digress. Okay, we have Trent Lush tuning in. Hello to you, Trent, and Melissa Eaton. She's watching from YouTube. Hello to you, Melissa. And Melissa, you are tuning in from Louisville. So nice to see a Louisville gal, a fellow Louisville gal. So this Futurecast is the HRRR. This is one that's pretty popular. It does show a few, very brief, very isolated flurries overnight, but you'll see much better chances closer to the Ohio, near Covington, Kentucky, the Cincinnati area, and not much for us. Tomorrow's forecast, cold. You'll hear us say that a lot. Cold for tomorrow, high of 43. Tomorrow's low, 29. 51 Tuesday. That's actually going to be a pretty nice day, and I believe it's the governor's inauguration on Tuesday. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I did see that is on Tuesday. Wednesday, a high of 46. So at least Tuesday, it is going to be one of the better days this week, a good amount of sunshine. And then Wednesday turns colder, increasing clouds, and then temperatures back down into the 20s. So not ideal, I know, right? But here is, I like to throw in our car wash forecast. And it made me think of it because one of my biggest pet peeves is when people get their car washed when it's going to rain, or when I see sprinklers on, either while it's raining or right before it's going to rain or right after it rained. It's so wasteful. We can do better than that. So when it comes to car wash, you don't want to get your car washed and have all the fancy stuff put on it. Like, I guess the wax, I don't really know, honestly. I'm not the expert, but if you want to get your money's worth, essentially is what I always say, which is very much what I like to do. You can get plenty of your money's worth this week. We'll have plenty of dry time, even sunshine. We'll be in good shape this week. Friday has the yellow light, just because maybe a couple of rain chances for the weekend. But that setup is going to be a little complicated, just because we've had a lot of inconsistencies with the model runs as of late, and things have just been very, very back and forth. So we'll have to wait probably a couple days to get more data in before things hopefully become more consistent in terms of who might see the rain, if we even see any rain at all, because some of our computer models have been keeping us dry. So we're kind of all over the place. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more consensus here before long. But okay, quiet weather this week. And I've actually been taught in school that we don't like to say, quiet or not much happening, because there's always something happening, which is true. But for us in particular, no active weather. Active meaning rain chances, snow chances, gusty winds. It's going to be fairly tame for us this week. And that's due to high pressure. We always say high pressure bubble means no trouble. And that's essentially because this dome of high pressure, it helps. And this, you can really see it very well. I've been pointing this out pretty much all weekend. You can see it really well how the outer fringes of the dome are where the showers are, and the rain, you'll see it pushes off into almost the central Atlantic. And we'll have this dome kind of shift, and then that will allow for a little bit more moisture to kind of be directed further into Texas and then upwards into the Central Plains. And that's what is going to bring active weather their direction. And then just how much this shifts by the weekend will be a pretty big player in those rain chances I was talking about. So a lot to keep a close eye on, as we always say, but at high pressure, it's kind of refreshing to see that, honestly. It makes it, sometimes when we have such active weather for so many weeks, days, whatever it might be, I know you guys get tired of it and we get tired of it too. So we're right there with you. Okay. Before I get into last night's the tornadoes that happened last night, because the National Weather Service has been out surveying, and there has been EF2 damage confirmed in Logan County, and also EF1 damage confirmed in Warren County on the southern fringes of Bowling Green. And that was from the same storm that moved through the Clarksville area, and that has now been rated at least an EF3. And they have about 3 separate National Weather Service offices in that area. So it's going to take a couple of days. I mean, it is truly a science when they are surveying storm damage. When I was interning at the National Weather Service, I almost wanted to work there, but I think I talked too much short in an office setting. But when it comes to storm surveys, it truly is a science because they have broken it down to the type of wood, whether it's a softwood tree, a hardwood tree, if the tree is, bent over, how the trees are laying, if there's metal that is twisted around, if, there's different levels and different parameters that can help dictate, it's almost like an investigation truly of trying to see just how strong the winds were, and that helps to determine the strength of the tornado. Regardless, it doesn't have to be a very strong tornado for us to feel and see significant impacts from that. And also sometimes we learn that, especially that was the case with the Bowling Green tornado, with, there were a lot of homes that just were not very well built, and that resulted in a lot of people being injured, a lot of people getting hurt. I'm not 100% certain if that's what led to the death of several of those people down in Bowling Green, and children too. But there was one neighborhood in particular that the houses were just not very well built, and they were fairly new. They weren't very old, and they were still up to code, housing code. So I think that brings up a very interesting conversation. And I went to a weather conference called Kenton a little while ago. This is me really rambling, but I went to a weather conference called Kenton, not this past year, but the year before. And there was a very big discussion about all of those things, and got to hear from the Mayfield mayor, and that was just so powerful. And I want to touch on the 10-day before I really start to dive into this stuff. You guys can kind of see how quiet it's going to be this week. 40s and 50s, our average high is right around 47 degrees, or 49 degrees. And then our average low is around 33. So we're a little below average a couple of days this week, Wednesday in particular, tomorrow in particular, a few cold mornings, one of those being tomorrow, Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, and then hopefully next weekend it'll feel a little bit better. We kept those rain chances. I know they've fluctuated a little bit this weekend, but I would still expect these numbers to continue to change as the forecast evolves. I mean, when we talk about a forecast, even six days out, keep in mind it's probably going to change, and sometimes it can be big and significant changes. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're making plans for next weekend. Okay, a couple more of you guys tuning in. Hopefully I didn't lose too many of you when I was ranting and rambling about the December 2021 tornadoes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second too. Amy Cruz, hello to you on Facebook from Campbellsville. We have NJ Franklin. You are tuning in from Facebook, and you are watching from Indiana. We also have Randy from Owenton, or is that? Sorry, the text. Yes, Owenton. The text is very small. Randy, I think it says Burford. Bierford. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your all's names. Hopefully, I got it close. But okay, I do want to bring up the December tornadoes, and I forgot to have that slide ready to go. So just stand by, and we'll talk a little bit more. Let me see. Stand by. I thought I had this graphic already pulled up. Let me see. I don't know if this is the right one. This might be from a different outbreak. Stand by. Oh, yes, March 18th. That's not the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that one was a pain, too, if it's the one I'm thinking of that happened while I was here. We also have Callie tuning in from Lebanon. Hello to you, Callie. Just stand by. And, if you remember that outbreak, you can share your story about what happened, because I think it's really important that we don't forget about everyone who was in that outbreak. There's just so much that changed that day, and that was the worst outbreak we've had in Kentucky since the 1974 outbreak. It was really terrifying. We had almost 100 fatalities, and that's just kind of unheard of in the modern age. Okay, let me see if this is the right graphic. Hopefully it is. Okay, I think it is. I was not working in Louisville just yet, but I was in the process of getting my job in Louisville when this happened. And I remember being so frustrated that I was not here yet to help out. And I just felt so helpless being so far away because I was in Myrtle Beach. And I just remember waking up and my mom calling me in the middle of the night when I was getting up for work and telling me, Bowling Green was hit, which is where I went to college, where I still have so many friends. And that was very scary to even just be so far away and just see the damage, because the damage photos at night before the sun comes up can be so terrifying. And the fact that all of these happened during the overnight hours is just like a whole other factor. So where you see that bright red line, that is the Mayfield tornado. And that is one of the longest. I don't know the exact statistics because I did not look right before. Not that it matters, but it's one of the longest tornadoes, one of the most powerful tornadoes in Kentucky history, and one of the most devastating. I mean, even today in Mayfield, when I got to hear the Mayfield mayor discuss this outbreak, and she showed us photos of just slabs where they're trying to rebuild. It's just such a process I don't think people think about. It's like, okay, well, the tornado happens, like they'll be fine in the next couple of days. No, these type of setups take years. It just takes years for people to recover, and some people don't even come back. They, don't want to come back. There's just so many elements and factors that go into it. And this is kind of a once in a lifetime outbreak. Hopefully, a once in a lifetime outbreak that we had just 2 years ago. And it was around this time. I actually have screenshots of when I was trying to go to bed for work the following morning, and of the storms as they were forming in Arkansas, where you can see far northeastern Arkansas, and it was starting to work its way into far western Kentucky. Ashley Nicole says, I remember leaving the house during the morning for the basement. It was heading right for us. She says, they just kept saying it was big and I wasn't going to stay without some place to handle that. And she said, sorry, I have a lot to say about it. I mean, storm anxiety is very real. And that's what's so upsetting about the fact that we had another outbreak over an area that the storm anxiety is still very real. When I had the chance last year, not this last month, but the November before, I had the chance to go down to Bowling Green and fill in. And when it was just raining, we had so many phone calls that were coming into the station at WBKO of people just so concerned about the storms, whether there was going to be another tornado and if they needed to take shelter, if there was, so anytime there's severe weather like that, it is, it can be very triggering for a lot of people's anxiety. So that's such a real thing and not something to be discounted. Okay, I'll go through this a little bit more now because I think I'm losing people with my rambling. But yeah, the Mayfield tornado was a total of almost 166 miles. And we had a tornado, the Bowling Green tornado. That one, I believe it was a multi-vortice tornado. And that's why we have that happens a lot where it looks like we have a couple of different tracks, but sometimes that's what happens. You have the main rotation of the tornado, and then sometimes it can spawn with very violent tornadoes. We call them vortices that kind of quickly spin up and spin around the main rotation itself. And that's what we had with the Henryville tornado as well. And you can see it in some of the videos online. You can really see that pronounced pretty well there. So we had the Mayfield tornado, we had the Bowling Green tornado, which ended up being an EF3. It was a high-end EF3. I talked to several people from Bowling Green. My mentor is one of my mentors, Landon Hampton. He was helping to survey a lot of that damage, and it was just like 1 mile per hour short, essentially, to kind of put it into perspective of how close it was to being EF4. They just didn't have enough evidence, so to speak. But it's not something, this is not, and the strength of the tornado, there's so much controversy with that. And when people, sometimes I think it validates people sometimes when they want it to be a bigger or stronger tornado or higher rated. And I totally get that. But it's not always the case. But EF4, the only EF4 we had was the Mayfield one, and it truly was heading right for Louisville, and we got very, very fortunate that it weakened when it did. We did have a few tornadoes as well, still through several of our counties. Through Taylor County, we did have EF3 damage from that same Bowling Green cell. I mean, I remember watching, and when I went to bed, I saw Brian Good and Ryan and Kevin. And when I woke up that morning, I also saw them again because they were still on overnight. So that is, again, like once in a lifetime. We don't see that very often. So, okay, I did not mean to pull this up already. So sorry. I said my piece about the December outbreaks from 2021. I do want to show you some of the pictures and photos and share some of the information when it comes to the tornadoes. Oh my gosh, sorry, my nose just started itching so bad. So far we've had, they have had in Tennessee 3 deaths in the Clarksville area and 3 deaths so far in the Nashville area. It's on the outskirts. Nashville's so big that the suburban areas outside of it, the sprawl is so big that it's just a highly populated area. That's my point. There are ways to help. I have a couple of those pulled up. But so far, I'll pull up this. This is our sister station, WSMV. They are, whoops, don't want that still. They are in Nashville, and they are our sister station. And there is a wild video of this tornado just like barreling through the area. There have been a lot of wild videos. That's the thing about this day and age, is we have so many ways to capture these storms. It is insane. And there are even a few stations and Department of Transportation cameras that caught it on camera as well. So the National Weather Service preliminary report, so they're still obviously surveying, but at least EF3 tornado damage. And that's in Montgomery County, and then near the Hendersonville and Madison areas, if you're familiar with those areas. So far, EF2 is the strength they found there. It was about 600 yards wide. That is a speed of around 150 miles per hour. It continued into Todd County, Kentucky from there. It decreased a bit. This is when it was cycling. You probably heard a lot of people talk about that. It was an EF2 with winds around 125 miles per hour. It stayed in Todd County on the ground for about 13.2 miles before it moved into Logan County, which was near Allensville, which is so crazy. This is an area, this is close to the Bowling Green area. It was on the ground for 18 miles through Logan County before it eventually lifted with EF2 damage there. So far, they're still surveying. Let's see. Storm surveys were now able to complete their assessment of the storm path, and will be looking at the Gallatin area on Monday. So that is for the Madison and Hendersonville tornado. So that's the one that was north of Nashville, basically. And there were some, let me go back. There were some just insane photos like this one. And I was trying my best to be able to pull up their photos like how we can here, but it, for some reason, wasn't letting me do that. You can see they literally had the tornado move through while they were on air.
In Clarksville.
And that is just pretty wild to see. I'll fast forward. And it's that dark blob there on the left. It's just so scary. I'm speeding this up a little bit so you guys can see. I think you can see power flashes as it moves through. And this is obviously previously recorded when they were on air. But you can see just how fast these were, fast moving storms. So there were a lot of videos that came out from the storm, and it's just terrifying, honestly, just seeing that, because you can't see anything in that, honestly. Let's see what else. I do want to talk about let's see if this might have, this was so Nashville, their Office of Emergency Management said the state of Tennessee had $12.7 million per capita loss. So obviously it's just a very, very devastating storm. I don't know if we have any more photos to show. I don't believe so. I'm just going through some of their stories from their newscast. So this is one of the crazier videos. It seemed to have hit some sort of large transformer, maybe a gas line, something, and essentially the fire went up the funnel of the tornado. We call it the condensation funnel. And that is not what creates the wind. That's essentially the cloud. That's the condensation funnel. So from what I have read in reports from other meteorologists as well, in some videos you can actually see that condensation funnel go away. The tornado did not go away, but the temperature changed, so that caused the condensation funnel to go away. I don't know. That's just crazy to me. This was just a very, very intense setup, and we knew it was going to be. We had a lot of. We knew it either was going to do a lot or not do nothing at all. And I know that probably sounds very generic, but sometimes that happens. We can get a busted forecast, but this just was not. Okay. I will answer any questions you guys might have. I think I have rambled long enough. Okay. Ashley Nicole, she says, we did have one touchdown a minute up the road in Big Springs. I'm assuming from the same storm at night. Do not apologize. It's okay. I asked for real stories. Hello to you, Brian in Myrtle Beach. Hello to David Klinger from Sellersburg. I hope you're having a great evening too. I did want to show, I almost forgot, tell you guys how you can help. Two children were killed. That's just so devastating. So Nashville Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. It's a group in Davidson County. They're accepting volunteer applications. Things like the United Way and the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. They're also supporting. Just make sure you're giving to viable places. And the Salvation Army is also taking monetary donations. Just make sure you know who you're giving your money to. If you get like a random text that you didn't sign up for, just make sure you vet it out pretty well, because you don't want, we don't want anyone getting your money that's not supposed to, because there's so many scams going around now, and the scammers are just heartless. They take advantage in times like this, and we hate that. But okay, that is enough from me. I've been on here for a while now. Goodness. But that's really all I have for me tonight. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday night. Stay warm, please. And we'll, of course, be on after Sunday Night Football. It will likely be sometime around 11:30. If we're not on exactly 11:30, just wait a couple of minutes for the football game to finish up. And we are always on directly after. And it's like an hour-long newscast, too, just depending on how long the football, if it goes over, and how long it does. But we'll have your news, weather, and sports. There's lots of exciting things happening in sports, so Dusty will have you covered there. But otherwise, take care, everybody. Have a good night, and enjoy the new work week where it's nice and quiet.